Day 2, December 30th, 2025. The challenge begins. Welcome back. Today I'm sharing what happened on day 2 of my dry fast, December 30th, 2025. This is where things started to get real. Let me give you the numbers first. Weight 218.5 pounds. That's down 1.5 pounds from yesterday's 220. Waist still at 45.5 inches, no change yet. Energy 7 out of 10, noticeably lower than yesterday's perfect 10. Mood, still a 10 out of 10. My spirits remained high despite the physical challenges, so in the first 24 to 48 hours, I had already dropped 1.5 pounds. Now, I want to be clear. I understand that most of this initial weight loss is water weight from glycogen depletion. Each gram of glycogen holds 3 to 4 grams of water, and my liver was burning through its reserves. But here's the thing, that's exactly what's supposed to happen. The water weight loss is a sign that my body is transitioning. The fat loss will follow. Let me describe how day 2 actually felt. I woke up in my chair at 7 a.m. I had fallen asleep there the night before. But here's what struck me. I felt well rested, genuinely rested. The first thing I noticed was what I didn't do. I didn't binge eat all night like I usually do. That was my old pattern, staying up late, mindlessly eating at my desk, consuming thousands of calories I didn't need while watching videos or working. On day 2 of the fast, that pattern was simply gone. I couldn't binge eat because I wasn't eating at all, and the freedom from that compulsion was remarkable. I wrote in my journal, felt good that I didn't binge eat all night like I usually do, feeling relaxed. I went grocery shopping that morning. Yes, grocery shopping while dry fasting. This might sound like torture, but I wanted to test myself. I wanted to see if I could be around food, surrounded by food, and maintain my commitment. And you know what? I wasn't tempted to break the fast. I walked through the aisles, saw all the food I would normally have grabbed, and felt nothing. No desperate urge, no negotiation in my head about just this once. I was simply there to shop for my wife, and I did it without incident. Now I knew the temptations would come. This was only day 2. I still had 8 more days planned. But for that moment, I felt strong. Let me talk about the 2 challenges I was facing simultaneously. First, the dry fast itself. By day 2, my liver glycogen was depleting. My body was starting the transition from glucose to ketones. This is metabolically demanding. The body has to upregulate entire enzyme systems, shift fuel preferences, and adapt to a fundamentally different energy source. Second, nicotine withdrawal. I had quit vaping the same day I started the fast. So while my body was dealing with the metabolic stress of no food and no water, it was also dealing with the neurological stress of no nicotine. Nicotine withdrawal typically involves irritability, difficulty concentrating, increased appetite, ironic given I wasn't eating, headaches, and mood swings. I was stacking these challenges deliberately. My philosophy was, if I'm going to transform, I'm going to transform completely, no half measures. By the end of day 2, I started developing a headache. This was expected, completely expected. When the brain transitions from glucose to ketones, there's a period of adjustment. The brain is used to running on one fuel source, and suddenly it has to learn to use another. This metabolic shift commonly produces headaches. Additionally, the lack of water intake means less fluid volume, which can contribute to headache symptoms. And on top of that, nicotine withdrawal commonly causes headaches. So I had 3 potential causes for my headache converging at once. No surprise that I felt it, but here's what I want you to understand. I didn't panic. I didn't take this as a sign that something was wrong. I took it as a sign that the transition was happening. The discomfort was evidence of change. I wrote, starting to develop a slight headache as the first 24 hours comes to a close. Let me explain what was happening inside my body on day 2. My liver glycogen was now fully depleting. The easy glucose was running out. My liver was being forced to ramp up ketone production, converting fatty acids into beta-hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, and acetone. My blood ketone levels were probably somewhere between 0.5 and 1.5 mmol by the end of day 2. Not yet in deep ketosis, but entering that territory. My brain was in the most difficult phase of its fuel transition. It was receiving diminishing glucose while not yet fully equipped to run on ketones. This explains the brain fog, the headache, the reduced energy. Gluconeogenesis was active. My liver was making glucose from amino acids to keep my blood sugar stable for the tissues that absolutely require glucose. But this is a backup system, not meant for long-term use. Meanwhile, my fat cells were fully unlocked. Insulin had dropped dramatically, probably 60 to 70% below baseline. Without insulin blocking the release, my fat cells were pouring fatty acids into my bloodstream. Those fatty acids were heading to my liver to be converted to ketones. The fat burning machinery was spinning up. I want to share something important about day two that many people don't talk about. There's a psychological component to this day that's almost as challenging as the physical component. On day one, you're riding the excitement of beginning something new. The novelty carries you. On day two, that novelty has worn off. You're just fasting, and you realize you still have a long way to go. For me, knowing I had planned a 10-day fast, day two meant I still had 8 more days ahead of me. That can feel overwhelming if you let it. My approach was to stay present, not to think about day 10, just to get through day two, one day at a time, 1 hour at a time if necessary. This is where having a clear protocol helps enormously. I wasn't making decisions. I wasn't negotiating with myself about whether to continue. The decision had been made on day one. Day two was simply about execution. Let me describe the symptoms I experienced on day two. Energy, reduced but not debilitating. I rated it 7 out of 10, down from 10. I could function, but I didn't feel like doing anything strenuous. Hunger, present but manageable. The habit hunger, the urge to eat at specific times, was still there. True physiological hunger was not overwhelming. Headache developed toward the end of the day, mild to moderate, consistent with what I expected from the metabolic transition. Thirst, present. My mouth felt dry, but I understood that my body was adapting, and internal hydration was still being maintained from previous water intake and initial metabolic water production. Mood, surprisingly good. Despite the physical challenges, I felt emotionally stable. The commitment to the fast gave me a sense of purpose. Here's what I did to manage day two. I stayed busy. Idle time is the enemy of fasting. When you're doing nothing, all you think about is food and discomfort. I went grocery shopping, not because I needed to, but because it occupied my time and tested my resolve. I rested when I needed to. Day two is not the time to prove anything with physical exertion. The body is working hard internally. It doesn't need external demands added. I reminded myself that day two is typically the hardest day. Many fasting experts say this. The transition day, when glycogen is depleted but ketosis isn't yet established, is peak difficulty. If I could get through day two, day three would likely be better. Let me put these numbers in context. In just 2 days, weight 220.0 to 218.5, down 1.5 pounds. Total weight lost 1.5 pounds, 0.75% of body weight. Progress toward goal 2.1% of the 70 pounds I want to lose. The waist hadn't changed yet, but waist measurements often lag behind weight loss. The visceral fat that contributes to waist size takes time to mobilize. My BMI had dropped slightly from 29.8 to approximately 29.6, still in the overweight category, but moving in the right direction. Let me talk about what I expected for day three. Based on my research, day three is typically when the corner turns. Ketosis should be fully established. The brain should be accepting ketones more readily. Many people report that the worst is over after day two. I expected continued weight loss, though possibly at a slower rate as the glycogen water release finishes. Possible improvement in energy as ketones become available to the brain. Reduction in hunger as ketones suppress appetite signals. Possible continuation of headache, but likely diminishing. The beginning of real mental clarity. Day two was about surviving the transition. Day three would be about starting to thrive. I want to be honest with you about something. Day two was hard, not impossible. I've done harder things in my life, but it was genuinely challenging. The combination of no food, no water, no nicotine, and the metabolic transition tested me. But here's what kept me going. I knew it was temporary. The discomfort of day two would pass. The headache would resolve, the low energy would improve. And on the other side of that discomfort was something I wanted desperately: freedom from my dysfunctional relationship with food. I had spent years, decades, being controlled by eating, by cravings, by habits, by the constant cycle of consumption and regret. Day two of a dry fast was my declaration of independence. Yes, it was uncomfortable, but discomfort in service of freedom is a price worth paying. Let me give you the complete day two summary. Date, December 30th, 2025. Day of fast, 2. Weight, 218.5 pounds, down 1.5 kilos from start. Waist 45.5 inches, unchanged. Energy level 7 out of 10. Mood 10 out of 10. Symptoms mild headache developing, reduced energy, manageable hunger. Notable also experiencing nicotine withdrawal from quitting vaping. Cumulative progress total weight lost 1.5 pounds. Total waist reduction 0 inches. Percentage of weight goal achieved 2.1%. That's day 2. The challenge began in earnest. I went to bed that night with a headache and lower energy than usual, but I also went to bed with my commitment intact. I hadn't broken the fast. I hadn't negotiated with myself. I had simply endured. Day 3 would be New Year's Eve. I would be entering the third day of a dry fast while the rest of the world celebrated with food and champagne. But I wasn't jealous. I was focused. In the next video, I'll share what happened on day 3 and how the New Year's celebration went while I was deep in a dry fast. Thank you for watching. Total time fasted as of end of day 2, approximately 48 hours. Total weight change down 1.5 pounds, 220.0 to 218.5. Total waist change 0 inches. Symptoms headache developing, energy reduced, hunger manageable. Overall assessment challenging but manageable. The transition is happening. Next video, day 3, December 31st, 2025, New Year's Eve in Ketosis.